Hello, today I would like to discuss the difference between 0 divided by 1, after that 1 divided by 0, then the last one is 0 divided by 0. So I think in my experience, so many students are still unable to tell the difference between these three. Maybe sometimes they answer 0 or undefined or infinite. So which one is the correct answer actually? So in order to understand between the difference between these three, before that, I would like you to answer the simple question. So let's say 6 divided by 2. And I think all of you must be able to answer this correctly. It is 3. And that's correct. It's not wrong. But the problem is, how do we get 3 actually? What is the process or how do we do it so that we get the answer is 3? So basically, when you do a division, you could think of it as like a opposite of the multiplication. So it will become like 2 multiply with what number to get 6? And I think the answer is obviously 3, right? And that's the only answer. So 2 multiply 3 equals 6 and no more. It means that's the only answer and only one solution. So that's how we do it. So go back to this logic. 0 divided by 1, it means you could do it become 1 multiply with what number to get equal with 0. And obviously your answer should be 0 because we know any number multiplied with 0, you get 0 in the end. So the only answer for this question is 0. It means 0 divided by 1, you answer is 0. It's not wrong. And how about, let's say, 0 divided by 2? Or 0 divided by, let's say, any number as long as not 0. In the end, you'll still get 0. Because, like using the same logic, 0 divided by k, it means k multiplied with what to get equal 0? It means 0. So in conclusion, 0 divided by any number as long as not 0 is 0 then. So that's the first one. Or you could say this one, it is basically a unique solution. So what does unique solution mean? Unique solution means you only have one answer and it is a certain answer, like exact value. You know it. So that's the first one. Now we go to the second one. For the second one, let's say 1 divided by 0. Using the same logic, you will think like it become 0 multiply with what number equal with 1. And if you think about it carefully, basically it means 0 multiply what number to get equal 1? I think it's impossible, right? Because like we knew just now, 0 multiply with anything, always 0. So now if you are asking me 0 multiply what number to get equal 1, it doesn't make sense. It's like, no possible number that if you multiply 0, you could get 1. So basically here what could you do? You just say it become undefined. Now, so undefined here, what does it mean? Undefined basically means it's impossible for you to find the value. It means the value is basically does not exist. Like you cannot find the value. Or you could even say no solution. So 1 divided by 0, it means no solution. And it's not only 1 divided by 0. Let's say any number, if you divide it by 0, as long as not 0 divided by 0, it's basically also undefined. So it means you cannot divide anything with 0. If you think about logically, when you have like, let's say 6 apples and then you want to divide it with 0 people, it also does not make sense, right? Because who do you want to divide your apples with? Like, you can't even divide with nothing, basically. So if you divide with 0, basically undefined, no solution, cannot find the answer. Now the last one is a bit interesting. Let's say 0 divided by 0. 0 divided by 0, basically you are thinking about like 0 multiply what number you get equal 0. And if you are thinking about it carefully, basically you might answer it 0. And it's true, that's not wrong because we know 0 multiplied with 0 equals 0. But the problem is that is not the only answer, right? It could be, if you think about it carefully, it could be 1, it could be 2, or it could be -1, it could be -2. Basically, it could be any number, even, negative, fraction, positive, zero, any number is possible. Now the question is, does it mean the answer is infinite? Not really, the answer is not infinite. That's wrong, because infinite is not a number. Infinite is like a representation to state a very big number. So let's say more than 1 billion, or maybe more than 1 trillion, or maybe more than 1000 trillion. So infinite is like a representation. It's not a number, and you don't even know the exact value. You just know that's basically a something that's very big, but you cannot find the exact number actually. So if you said this 0 over 0 has infinite solution, then I agree, it's correct. Because you have so many possible value, so it means you have infinite solution. But does it mean the answer is infinite? No, it's not. So what do we call it? Some people still call it undefined. And that's also not wrong, because 0 divided by 0 is technically undefined. Like we learned just now, right? Anything divided by 0, you call it undefined. That's not wrong. But one thing that you need to know is undefined itself has two meanings. So if you check the dictionary of Webster, I think you could check it in any dictionary, but I think Webster is the best. So go to the Webster dictionary and you check the definition of undefined, you'll get two meanings. The first meaning, it states it is basically not precisely shown, or they call it not clear enough. So when they said not precisely shown or not clear enough, what does it mean? Basically, it means you do not have the certain value, or you do not have the exact value. So for example, like this is the typical example of 0 over 0. Because like I said just now, 0 divided by 0, it could be any number. Could be 0, could be 1, could be 2, could be 3. It means it's not clear, right? I mean, like, you even feel confused, like, what is the correct answer actually? Like, you have so many possible solutions. So that's the very first definition. And then for the second definition, if you check it later, they will call it cannot be defined. Cannot be defined, or you could even call it basically it's impossible to find for the value. Or you could say it's basically does not exist. So that's the best keyword then. So some people call it DNE. It means does not exist. Then you cannot find the value because it's just impossible. Now, so for the second definition of undefined, this is the typical example of like any number k over 0, as long as that number should not equal 0. Now, so my point is, even though 1 divided by 0 and 0 divided by 0 both are called undefined, but you need to make sure both of them have different meaning. 1, it means not precisely shown or not clear enough. It means you have so many possible values and you do not even know which one is the correct answer, which one is the correct value. While another one is you don't have solution at all, like it's basically impossible for you to find it, like it does not exist. So that's the definition of undefined. But later, when you have learned about in a higher grade, let's say when you learn about calculus, especially in a topic called limit of a function, you will learn what you call as this indeterminate form. So what does indeterminate form mean? Indeterminate form basically mean like a form that do not have the certain value or the exact value. Like you cannot determine it exactly. So that's why it's called indeterminate form. So for example, 0 over 0. Why? Because the reasons like this. It could be any number. So it's like you cannot determine the real answer because you have so many possible values. So in conclusion, 0 over 0, we preferably call it indeterminate form later when you have learned calculus or especially limit of a function. But when you are still in junior, maybe you are only told undefined. And maybe when you learn at school or you read at book, they just call it anything divided by 0 is undefined. But they basically never tell you why. Like, why is it not possible? Yeah, so this is the real reason and the real explanation why it's impossible. So in conclusion, 0 divided by 1, it's 0. And it's a unique solution because you only have one possible answer. And not only 0 divided by 1, 0 divided by any number as long as not 0. And then the second one is 1 divided by 0 is basically undefined. But undefined actually it means no solution, or it basically means does not exist. So you cannot define the value. It's impossible for you to find the value. And then the third one is 0 divided by 0. So 0 divided by 0, what does it mean? Basically, it means indeterminate form. Indeterminate format here means you have so many possible values and your value is not clear, like you don't even know who is the real answer. But some people or some books they'll call it undefined. That's also not wrong, but what you need to know is undefined there means not clear enough. It does not mean does not exist like 1 divided by 0. So later, I think we better call it indeterminate form rather than undefined. So this is the real difference between 0 divided by 0, 1 divided by 0, and 0 divided by 0. So hopefully you are able to understand the explanation from this, the one that I wrote at here. And if you feel like this is helpful enough, maybe you could share it to your friends, or maybe you could share it to anyone so that they basically understand the difference between these three. Hopefully this video helps you, and see you again on the next time.